Welcome to the Monty Collier Report. I'm Monty Collier. This video is for those individuals who are interested in keeping up with James White's recent attacks against the Red Beetle, myself, and some of the teachings of Gordon H. Clark, specifically Clark's teaching on the Johannine Logos and Clark's teaching on saving faith. After I heard about James White's irrational attacks against myself and Clark, I decided that I would call this past Monday Alpha and Omega Ministries and ask James a couple of questions. I get in touch with Alpha and Omega Ministries and I get a hold of this gentleman named Rich Pierce. It turns out Rich Pierce is the president of Alpha and Omega Ministries. And I asked Richard if I could speak to James White, and he tells me no, I'm not allowed to speak to James White. I ask if James White could possibly contact me so that I could speak with him then. No, that's not possible either, he tells me. He goes on to tell me that nobody's allowed to speak to James White. He screens all the calls, and any questions has to be asked to him.
I want to meet this Duke.
You can't meet the Duke. Are you crazy? Nobody gets to meet the Duke. You meet him once and then you're dead.
Yeah, right out of a movie. Well, anyways, I proceed to ask Rich Pierce if he could answer a couple of questions. I wanted to ask him about White's view of saving faith in relation to Lordship salvation. He said go ahead. And I asked for James White's theological definition of saving faith, and it rather quickly became obvious that when it come to answering that question, he didn't know how to answer the question.
I don't know!
Well, I had already told at the beginning of the call the president here of Alpha and Omega Ministries, a so-called Calvinist ministry, that I was the Clarkian James White had been talking about on his show. And as I was trying to explain to him that some people define saving faith with a tripartite definition, they'll enumerate notitia, assensus, and fiducia as the elements that comprise saving faith. As I was trying to explain this to him, he must have realized who I was, because he goes, "Wait a minute, are you Monty Collier?" And I said, "Yes, I'm Mr. Collier." And he goes, "Ah!" And he just hangs up the phone really fast. And I was thinking, man, what was that about? Apparently the realization that one is talking to the Red Beetle can be quite scary. Well, after I stopped laughing and thought about it for a second, I just decided I'd call back and I'd give the guy the benefit of the doubt. And so I do. I call back, and same guy answers his phone, Rich Pierce, and I just politely say, "It seems we got disconnected." And this guy just goes nuts, man. He goes into like one of the most irrational rants I think I've ever heard in discussing theology or even having any type of apologetic encounter with anybody. This guy goes, "We can't meet your standards, Monty Collier." And I'm sitting here like, what? So I try to reason with this guy, but he just starts yelling that same thing over. "No one can meet your standards." He's just yelling over and over again. It's irrational, and then he hangs up on me again, but not before he gets really close to the phone. I must have been on speakerphone or something. He gets really close to the phone, and he's like, in this demonic like voice, he's like, "No one can meet your standards." And then he just hung up. But that's really sad. I was really expecting better from an organization that claimed to be reformed.